The morning sun filtered through the gauzy curtains of the sprawling penthouse apartment, casting a warm glow over the polished hardwood floors. Sarah Hartley, with her perfectly coiffed hair and expertly applied makeup, moved gracefully through her kitchen, preparing breakfast. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and sizzling bacon filled the air, a daily ritual in their seemingly perfect life. Her husband, David Hartley, a well-regarded investment banker, entered the kitchen, dressed in a tailored suit. His presence was commanding yet approachable, embodying the polished image of success. As he kissed Sarah on the cheek and complimented her on the breakfast, their interactions were smooth, rehearsed, a display of affection that seemed both genuine and practiced. Their home was a testament to their success and refined taste. Art from renowned galleries adorned the walls, and the furniture was selected from exclusive designers. It was a place where every detail was meticulously curated, reflecting their achievements and status. Sarah and David's social circle was equally impressive. They hosted glamorous parties that drew the city's elite, politicians, celebrities, and influential business figures. Conversations at these gatherings were a blend of sophisticated chatter and veiled power plays, all under the guise of friendly banter. On weekends, the couple was often seen at high-profile events, charity galas, gallery openings, and private functions. Their effortless grace and charm made them the center of attention. Sarah, with her elegance and poised demeanor, was often admired for her beauty and her role as the perfect wife. David, with his charisma and sharp intellect, was lauded for his professional success and leadership. Despite the veneer of perfection, there were subtle hints of strain beneath the surface. Sarah's smile, though radiant, occasionally faltered when she thought no one was watching. David's laughter, though hearty, sometimes seemed to lack genuine warmth. Their interactions, though polished, occasionally revealed brief moments of tension, quickly masked by forced smiles and casual reassurances. The couple's life, from the outside, was a portrait of success and happiness. Yet, the smooth facade they maintained hid a complex web of expectations, secrets, and unspoken discontent. This perfect image was their shield against the imperfections that lay just beneath, waiting for a crack to expose the reality behind the facade. As they prepared for yet another social event, the Hartleys' life continued to unfold under the spotlight, each moment carefully crafted to maintain their flawless image. Little did they know, their seemingly perfect world was on the brink of unraveling, and the facade they worked so hard to preserve would soon be tested by the harsh realities of their hidden truths. The day started like any other in the Hartley household. Sarah was at the gym for her early morning workout, a routine she followed religiously. David, meanwhile, was already at the office, leaving her ample time to prepare for the day's events. Yet, beneath the surface of their well-structured lives, subtle signs of discord began to emerge. It started with small, seemingly inconsequential details. Sarah noticed David's phone buzzing incessantly with messages from an unknown number. She brushed it off as a work-related issue, but the frequency and urgency of the messages struck her as unusual. When she asked him about it, David's dismissive answer and quick change of subject only heightened her unease. During one of their social gatherings, a well-meaning guest casually mentioned seeing David with a woman at a coffee shop, a detail that seemed insignificant, yet it planted a seed of doubt in Sarah's mind. Her initial reaction was to laugh it off, but the comment lingered, gnawing at her thoughts. David's attempts to reassure her about the harmless nature of his meetings did little to quell her growing suspicion. The couple's interactions began to reveal subtle shifts. David, once attentive and engaged, now seemed distracted. He was frequently late coming home, citing extended work hours or unexpected meetings. When they did spend time together, Sarah noticed that his mind often appeared elsewhere, as though he were preoccupied with something, or someone, outside their marriage. Sarah's own behavior started to change as well. She became more vigilant, scrutinizing David's movements and interactions. She began to check his phone and emails more frequently, a behavior she had never engaged in before. The once easy conversations between them grew strained, filled with forced pleasantries and unspoken tension. Their intimate moments, once frequent and passionate, had dwindled to brief and perfunctory encounters. A chance encounter with one of David's colleagues further fueled Sarah's suspicions. At a charity gala, she overheard a conversation where the colleague mentioned David's frequent business trips and late nights. Sarah's heart raced as she pieced together the fragments of conversation, each one reinforcing her growing unease. One evening, as David was out on yet another late-night errand, Sarah found herself alone with her thoughts. She stumbled upon a receipt for an expensive dinner at a restaurant she knew they had never visited together. The name on the receipt was unfamiliar, and the amount was far greater than their usual dining expenses. The receipt, along with the growing number of unanswered phone calls from a mysterious number, began to paint a picture that Sarah was reluctant to fully acknowledge. The cracks in their perfect facade were becoming more pronounced, and Sarah's efforts to maintain the illusion of harmony were increasingly overshadowed by her mounting concerns. The seemingly minor inconsistencies in David's evasive behavior began to accumulate, revealing the fragility of their carefully crafted life. Each small revelation was a crack in the veneer of their perfect marriage, hinting at the possibility of something far more sinister lurking beneath the surface. The evening was quiet as Sarah Hartley settled into the plush armchair in the study. David had been late again, and she had decided to catch up on some reading to pass the time. The soft light of the desk lamp cast a warm glow over the room, but the peaceful atmosphere was soon disrupted by the discovery that would shatter the calm. While reaching for a book from the top shelf of the study's built-in bookcase, Sarah's hand brushed against an envelope wedged between the books. It was an unmarked white envelope, seemingly out of place. Curiosity piqued, she carefully retrieved it and noticed that it was sealed with no name or return address. A sense of unease gripped her as she weighed the decision to open it. With a deep breath, Sarah peeled back the envelope's flap. Inside, she found a series of photographs and a note. The photographs were candid shots of David and a woman, one she didn't recognize, taken in various locations. They were taken in intimate settings, sharing a meal at a restaurant, walking closely together in a park, and even a photograph of them laughing together in what looked like a hotel room. Her heart pounded as she examined each photograph, the reality of what she was seeing sinking in. The images were not merely of David and another woman, they were of him engaged in affectionate and personal moments that made it clear their relationship went beyond mere friendship. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the note, which was written in a neat, but unfamiliar handwriting. David, I'm missing you. Our moments together are the highlight of my days. I can't wait to see you again soon. Emma. The name Emma was a new revelation. Sarah had never heard David mention anyone by that name, and the familiarity expressed in the note was deeply troubling. The words echoed in her mind, a painful confirmation of her worst fears. Sarah's mind raced as she tried to piece together what she had just uncovered. The photographs, the note, everything pointed to an affair that had been ongoing for some time. The evidence was damning and undeniable. Her feelings of betrayal and anger surged uncontrollably. She tried to gather her composure, but the images and words kept replaying in her mind. She knew that confronting David with this evidence would be a significant step. The decision was not just about exposing the truth but also about confronting the reality of her fractured marriage. As she carefully replaced the envelope and its contents, her hands shaking slightly, Sarah took a moment to compose herself. The veneer of their perfect life had cracked open, revealing a hidden world of deceit. The whispered secret that had lurked beneath the surface was now out in the open, and with it came a flood of emotions and decisions she had to face. The peaceful study now felt like a battleground, and Sarah knew that the facade she had worked so hard to maintain was about to come crashing down. The next steps were uncertain, but one thing was clear: the course of their lives would forever change, and the confrontation that awaited her was just the beginning. The sound of the front door closing echoed through the Hartley penthouse, signaling David's arrival. Sarah stood in the living room, her heart racing as she braced herself for the impending confrontation. The evidence she had discovered earlier weighed heavily on her mind, and the moment of truth had finally arrived. David entered the room, his demeanor relaxed and casual, but his smile faltered when he saw the tense expression on Sarah's face. "Hey, love," he began, attempting a casual tone. "Long day at the office. How was your evening?" Sarah took a deep breath, trying to steady her voice as she faced him. "David, we need to talk." His brow furrowed in concern. "What's wrong?" Without saying a word, Sarah walked over to the coffee table and placed the envelope with the photographs and note in front of him. David's eyes widened as he saw the contents, and his expression shifted from confusion to apprehension. "What is this?" David asked, his voice suddenly guarded. Sarah's voice trembled with a mix of anger and pain. "It's what it looks like, David. I found these in the study. They're proof of your affair." David's face went pale as he looked at the photographs. He swallowed hard, struggling to maintain his composure. "Sarah, I don't," Sarah interrupted, her voice rising. "I don't want to hear any excuses. The note, the pictures, everything is right here. How long has this been going on? Who is she?" David looked down, unable to meet her gaze. "Sarah, please, let me explain. Emma, she's someone I met through work. It started off as a friendship, and then, don't you dare justify it." Sarah's voice cracked. "You've been lying to me, betraying our marriage. All those late nights, all those times you said you were working." David ran a hand through his hair, clearly distressed. "I didn't want to hurt you. It just happened. I was confused, and I didn't know how to end it." "Confused?" Sarah's eyes were filled with tears. "You think that makes it okay? You think it's justifiable because you were confused? You've broken my trust, David. Everything we had, our marriage, our life together, means nothing to you." David took a step toward her, but Sarah recoiled, shaking her head. "No, don't touch me. I can't believe you would do this to us. To me." "Sarah, I'm so sorry," David pleaded. "I never meant for this to get out of hand. I've been trying to fix things, to end it with Emma. I want to make things right with you." Sarah's eyes burned with a mix of hurt and rage. "It's too late for apologies. You've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. I don't know how we move forward from this. All I know is that I need time to think." David's shoulders slumped in defeat as Sarah turned away from him. The confrontation had left them both emotionally shattered. The space between them, once filled with affection and understanding, was now a chasm of betrayal and pain. As Sarah walked out of the room, the gravity of their situation settled heavily on her. The confrontation had stripped away the last remnants of their perfect facade, exposing the raw, unfiltered reality of their fractured relationship. The future was uncertain, and the path ahead was fraught with difficult decisions and unresolved emotions. The penthouse apartment was quiet as David sat alone in the dimly lit study, the weight of his choices pressing heavily on him. The confrontation with Sarah had left him reeling, and as he tried to come to terms with the fallout, memories of his affair with Emma began to surface, revealing the complexity of his double life. David's life had been busy and demanding, filled with high-stakes meetings and relentless pressure from his career. It was during one of these demanding periods that he first met Emma at a charity event. She was a charming and charismatic figure, a stark contrast to the serious, business-focused world David inhabited. Their initial conversations were innocuous, discussing mutual interests in art and philanthropy. Emma's vibrant energy and genuine interest in his work provided a welcome escape from the monotony of his routine. What began as friendly conversations over coffee soon evolved into deeper interactions. Emma's laughter and effortless charisma became a beacon of light in David's otherwise high-pressure life. The relationship between David and Emma quickly intensified. Their meetings, initially professional, started to include more personal discussions. They found solace in each other's company, sharing vulnerabilities and dreams that David had rarely spoken about to anyone else. Emma's attentiveness and the emotional connection they developed filled a void David hadn't realized existed. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, David and Emma met for dinner. The restaurant's ambience was intimate, and the evening unfolded with easy conversation and shared laughter. As the night progressed, the emotional barriers between them dissolved. They found themselves drawn together in a moment of vulnerability and passion, a stark departure from the controlled environment of their daily lives. As their affair continued, David juggled the complexity of maintaining two separate lives. He crafted elaborate lies to cover his tracks, late nights at the office, unexpected business trips, and meetings with clients. The need to keep his affair hidden from Sarah added a layer of stress to his already demanding life. Emma's presence became a conflicting source of comfort and guilt. David's feelings for her grew stronger, but so did his sense of betrayal toward Sarah. He was caught in a cycle of seeking solace with Emma while simultaneously trying to avoid confronting the consequences of his actions. The emotional distance between David and Sarah grew as his relationship with Emma deepened. The intimacy he once shared with his wife diminished, replaced by forced conversations and superficial interactions. The contrast between his two lives was stark. With Emma, he experienced a sense of liberation and emotional connection, while with Sarah, he felt burdened by the weight of his deceit. Emma often expressed frustration over the secrecy and the limits of their relationship. She wanted more than the stolen moments and hidden encounters. Their discussions about the future were tinged with longing and disillusionment. David was torn between the life he had built with Sarah and the growing desire for a future with Emma. The tipping point came when Emma began to push for a more open relationship, threatening to expose their affair if David didn't make a decision. The pressure mounted as Emma demanded clarity about their future together. David's attempts to placate her while maintaining his marriage only deepened his internal conflict. One particular night, Emma's desperation culminated in an emotional confrontation. She accused David of stringing her along, and their argument ended in a dramatic outburst. Emma's anger and hurt resonated deeply with David, forcing him to confront the enormity of his choices and the inevitable unraveling of his double life. As David sat in the study, grappling with the remnants of his affair, the contrast between his two lives became painfully clear. The emotional intimacy he had sought with Emma was now tainted by guilt and regret, while the facade of his marriage with Sarah lay in ruins. The duality of his existence had brought him to a precipice, and the consequences of his actions were now laid bare. David's reflections on his affair provided a glimpse into the complex motivations and emotions that led him astray. The unresolved tension between his desires and the reality of his marriage left him with a haunting awareness of the damage he had caused. The path forward seemed uncertain, fraught with the task of facing the full extent of his betrayal and seeking a resolution to the fractured remnants of his life. The silence in the Hartley penthouse was heavy, punctuated only by the distant hum of city traffic. David and Sarah were in the living room, the remnants of their confrontation still palpable in the air. The once familiar space now felt alien, filled with an unspoken tension. David paced back and forth, his frustration evident in every movement. "Sarah, you have to understand," he began, his voice strained. "I never wanted to hurt you. This affair, it wasn't planned. It just happened." Sarah sat on the edge of the couch, her posture rigid. Her eyes, though tired, were filled with a fierce resolve. "So, it just happened. Is that supposed to make it okay?" she asked, her voice barely containing her hurt. David stopped pacing and turned to face her, desperation in his eyes. "No, it doesn't make it okay. But it's not as simple as you think. Emma was a comfort to me when I was struggling with everything. I felt isolated, and she made me feel alive again." Sarah's gaze was unwavering, her hurt turning into anger. "You felt isolated? We were building a life together, David. I was there for you through every challenge. But instead of coming to me, you chose to betray everything we had. You threw it all away for someone else." David took a deep breath, struggling to articulate his feelings. "It wasn't about throwing you away. It was about escaping from the pressure, the constant demands. I didn't want to lose you, but I didn't know how to handle what I was feeling. Emma was a distraction, a way to cope with my own inadequacies." Sarah shook her head, the weight of David's words sinking in. "So you thought cheating was a solution? Instead of talking to me, you chose deceit and betrayal. How can you expect me to believe that you didn't want to hurt me?" David's shoulders sagged, and he ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "I made a mistake, Sarah. I'm sorry. I never meant for things to get this far. I want to make amends. I want to fix this." Sarah stood up, her emotions spilling over. "Fix this? How do you fix something that's been shattered beyond repair? I don't even know if I can look at you the same way again. Every interaction, every moment we shared is tainted by this betrayal." David's eyes were filled with pleading. "Please, Sarah, don't say that. We can work through this. I want us to get past this, to rebuild what we had. I'm willing to do whatever it takes." As David's words hung in the air, Sarah's mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. She had spent years building a life with David, investing in their marriage and their future together. The betrayal she felt was profound, but the question of whether their relationship could survive this rupture loomed large. Sarah took a deep breath, her voice soft but firm. "I need time, David. Time to think about what's next. This isn't something we can just gloss over. I need to figure out if this marriage is salvageable, and if so, what it would even look like." David nodded, his face a mix of relief and apprehension. "I understand. I'll give you the space you need. But please know that I'm committed to doing whatever it takes to make things right." As David left the room, Sarah was left alone with her thoughts. The decisions ahead were daunting. Could she forgive David and attempt to rebuild their relationship, or was the damage too great to overcome? The lines had been drawn, and the future of their marriage now hung in a delicate balance, contingent on the choices they would both make in the coming days. The once warm and inviting penthouse now felt like a battleground, each corner a reminder of the fractured relationship between David and Sarah. With their marriage in turmoil, both David and Sarah began to strategize, each driven by a need to regain control and achieve their own goals. Sarah's initial shock and pain slowly began to transform into a steely resolve. She knew that to regain her sense of control and make informed decisions, she needed to take proactive steps. Sarah immersed herself in activities that bolstered her confidence and independence. She reconnected with old friends and took up hobbies she had put aside. Attending therapy sessions provided her with a safe space to explore her feelings and formulate a plan for her future. Realizing the importance of financial security, Sarah reviewed their financial situation meticulously. She consulted with a financial advisor to understand her options and ensure she could maintain her lifestyle. Whether or not she decided to stay in the marriage, Sarah began to document David's actions and interactions, gathering evidence of his behavior. This wasn't just about the affair but about understanding the full extent of the cracks in their relationship. She kept a journal and collected any relevant documents or communications that could provide clarity. With a clearer picture of her situation, Sarah started to explore her options. She researched divorce proceedings and sought legal advice to understand her rights and the implications of ending her marriage. Simultaneously, she considered the possibility of reconciliation and what it would require to rebuild trust. David, on the other hand, was determined to salvage his marriage and repair the damage he had caused. His approach was a mix of sincere attempts to make amends and calculated efforts to regain Sarah's trust. David initiated regular, heartfelt conversations with Sarah, attempting to express his remorse and desire to change. He made it a point to be transparent about his actions, hoping to rebuild trust through honesty and vulnerability. Acknowledging the need for professional help, David arranged for couples therapy and began individual counseling. He was committed to addressing his own issues and understanding the underlying causes of his behavior. His goal was to show Sarah that he was willing to work on himself and their relationship. David started to publicly demonstrate his commitment to Sarah. He made efforts to include her in his social circles and activities, showcasing their relationship as a united front. He believed that visible acts of commitment would help counteract the damage done by the affair. David worked on creating a transparent environment. He offered to share his phone, email, and calendar with Sarah to reassure her of his commitment to honesty. He also took steps to limit his interactions with Emma, ensuring that there would be no further contact. To rekindle their emotional connection, David planned thoughtful gestures aimed at reminding Sarah of their shared history and the love they once had. He organized small surprises and dates, hoping to evoke positive memories and rebuild their bond. As Sarah and David followed their respective strategies, the tension between their efforts was palpable. Sarah's determination to reclaim her independence and David's attempts at reconciliation created a dynamic filled with both hope and conflict. Each move they made was a step in a complex dance of healing, retribution, and renewal. Sarah's plans for self-empowerment and independence clashed with David's attempts to repair and rebuild their relationship. While Sarah focused on her own path forward, David's actions were aimed at proving his commitment and regaining trust. The contrast in their strategies highlighted the stark divide between their goals, and the resolution of their conflict depended on finding common ground amid their competing desires. The battle to regain control and achieve their goals unfolded with intense emotions and strategic maneuvers. As they navigated their separate paths, the future of their relationship remained uncertain, and each step taken was a move in the ongoing struggle to redefine their lives and their marriage. The penthouse was quiet, save for the soft ticking of the wall clock, as Sarah meticulously prepared for her next move. The decision to reveal David's affair was not one she made lightly, but she felt it was necessary to confront the full extent of the betrayal and to regain control of her life. Sarah began by drafting a list of key individuals who needed to be informed about David's infidelity. Her intention was not just to expose the affair but to ensure that David faced the consequences of his actions. The list included close friends, family members, and influential figures within their social circle, people who would understand the gravity of the situation and hold David accountable. Sarah reached out to a select group of close friends and family members who had supported her throughout her marriage. She invited them to a gathering under the pretense of discussing personal matters, knowing that their support would be crucial. Sarah planned a casual get-together at their home, framing it as a gathering to catch up with friends and family. The real purpose was to subtly drop hints about the affair and gauge the reactions of those who would be impacted by the revelation. With the rise of digital communication, Sarah decided to use social media strategically. She crafted a carefully worded post that hinted at the end of her marriage, alluding to the betrayal without naming names directly. The post was designed to reach a wider audience, ensuring that David's affair became common knowledge. Sarah prepared personal statements for those she planned to inform directly. She wanted her words to be clear and impactful, expressing the hurt and betrayal she felt while also outlining her decision to confront the situation head-on. the day of the gathering arrived, and Sarah worked diligently to create an atmosphere of casual normalcy. She arranged the living room with comfortable seating and prepared refreshments, aiming to keep the event low-key while subtly preparing for the moment when she would reveal the truth. As guests arrived, Sarah greeted them with a warm smile, masking the turmoil she felt inside. David was not expected to be home during the event, having been informed of a conflicting engagement. This allowed Sarah to speak freely without immediate confrontation. After a while, Sarah gathered everyone in the living room and took a deep breath. Her voice was steady as she began to speak. "Thank you all for coming. I know I've been a bit distant lately, and I wanted to be open with you about what's been going on." Sarah's gaze swept over the concerned faces of her friends and family. "Recently, I discovered that David has been unfaithful. It has been an incredibly painful and challenging time for me, and I felt it was important for you to hear it from me rather than through rumors." The room fell silent as the gravity of Sarah's words sank in. The initial shock was palpable, and whispers of disbelief and sympathy began to circulate. Sarah continued, her voice quivering slightly but resolute. "I'm sharing this not for sympathy, but to be honest about what's happening. I need your support as I navigate this difficult period and make decisions about my future." The reactions varied from stunned silence to expressions of outrage and empathy. Some friends and family members offered immediate support and reassurances, while others struggled with the betrayal. Sarah noted the differing responses, understanding that their reactions would influence the next steps in her journey. In the days following the gathering, the revelation of David's affair became a topic of discussion within their social circle. Friends and acquaintances began to approach Sarah, expressing their concern and offering support. The exposure of the affair created ripples through their community, affecting not only David but also their shared relationships. David, upon discovering the extent of the exposure, was faced with the tangible consequences of his actions. The social backlash and the strain on his relationships added a layer of accountability to his attempts at reconciliation. The affair had been laid bare, and the path forward was now marked by the repercussions of the truth. Sarah's decision to reveal the affair was a pivotal moment in her journey. It was a step towards reclaiming her narrative and confronting the consequences of David's betrayal. As the fallout continued to unfold, Sarah prepared to face the next chapter of her life, armed with the support of those who stood by her and the clarity she had gained through her actions. David's world had been upended by the public revelation of his affair. The exposure had not only damaged his relationship with Sarah but had also started to erode his reputation and social standing. Determined to salvage what he could, David began to take steps to manipulate the situation and cover his tracks, hoping to regain control over the narrative and protect his interests. David's first move was to address the situation publicly. He crafted a carefully worded statement for social media and his professional network, attempting to shift the focus from his infidelity to the personal struggles he had been facing. He portrayed himself as a victim of circumstances, emphasizing the challenges he had endured and his commitment to making amends. David posted a heartfelt apology on his social media accounts, expressing regret for his actions and acknowledging the pain he had caused Sarah. He framed his behavior as a result of personal struggles and promised to work on himself, hoping to elicit sympathy and support from his network. David increased his presence at work-related events and public engagements, aiming to project an image of resilience and dedication. He hoped that by demonstrating his continued commitment to his career, he could distract from the personal scandal and reinforce his value in professional circles. David knew that winning back Sarah's trust was crucial, but he also recognized the importance of managing his relationships with others who had been affected by the affair. David began reaching out to mutual friends and acquaintances, presenting his side of the story in a controlled manner. He focused on justifying his actions and casting himself in a sympathetic light, while downplaying the gravity of his betrayal. This selective communication was designed to sway opinions in his favor and reduce the social fallout. To further manipulate the situation, David used guilt as a tactic. He reached out to friends and family who had expressed their disappointment, emphasizing his remorse and the personal toll the affair had taken on him. He hoped to appeal to their sense of compassion and encourage them to support his efforts to reconcile with Sarah. In addition to managing public perception, David took steps to cover his tracks and minimize the fallout from his affair. He aimed to obscure the details of his relationship with Emma and eliminate any remaining evidence that could further damage his reputation. David severed all contact with Emma, blocking her on social media and changing his contact information. He hoped that by cutting off communication, he could eliminate the risk of further exposure and prevent Emma from sharing additional details about their affair. David took measures to destroy or conceal any remaining evidence of his infidelity. He deleted text messages, emails, and any other communications that could be used against him. He also attempted to retrieve and destroy any photographs or documents related to his affair with Emma. Anticipating the potential legal ramifications of the affair, David consulted with a lawyer to understand his rights and obligations. He sought advice on how to protect his assets and navigate any potential legal disputes that might arise from the fallout of the affair. As David pursued his strategy to manipulate the situation, he crossed several ethical boundaries. His attempts to cover his tracks and control the narrative involved deception and manipulation, further complicating the situation and undermining any genuine efforts at reconciliation. David's justifications for his actions were often manipulative and self-serving. He downplayed the significance of his betrayal and shifted blame onto external factors, rather than taking full responsibility for his actions. David's use of guilt and selective communication to win back support involved exploiting the vulnerabilities of those around him. His actions demonstrated a willingness to manipulate emotions and relationships to serve his own interests. As David navigated the complexities of his situation, the boundaries between manipulation and genuine remorse became increasingly blurred. His efforts to control the fallout from his affair and protect his interests revealed the extent of his desperation and the lengths he was willing to go to salvage his reputation and relationships. The consequences of his actions continued to unfold, and the ethical implications of his choices left a lasting impact on those involved. As David and Sarah navigated the fallout from the affair, their actions set off a chain reaction that reshaped their relationships with friends and family. The turmoil led to unexpected alliances and betrayals, revealing the complexities of loyalty and personal interests. Amid the chaos, Sarah found unexpected allies among friends she had previously overlooked. Two colleagues from her old job, Lisa and Michael, reached out with genuine support. They had heard about the situation through mutual contacts and offered their help. Lisa, who had experienced a similar betrayal in her own life, provided Sarah with practical advice and emotional support, while Michael offered a listening ear and financial guidance. Sarah's estranged sister, Emily, who had been distant due to past conflicts, reached out with an olive branch. Emily, having learned about the affair through Sarah's social media post, was moved by her sister's plight. She offered a place to stay and emotional support, hoping to mend their fractured relationship and stand by Sarah during this difficult time. Sarah's decision to share her story on social media led to an outpouring of support from professional contacts. Several colleagues and acquaintances, impressed by her courage, rallied around her. They offered assistance with legal and financial matters, helping her navigate the complexities of her situation and providing a network of support. The fallout also exposed friends who, despite appearing supportive, aligned themselves with David. A close friend of David's, Tom, who had been a frequent guest at their home, sided with David and began actively defending him in conversations and on social media. His defense was less about seeking the truth and more about protecting his own reputation and maintaining his friendship with David. David's family, particularly his mother, Margaret, struggled to remain neutral. Margaret, who had always been close to David, found it challenging to accept the full extent of his betrayal. She began to subtly criticize Sarah, suggesting that David's actions were a result of Sarah's inadequacies rather than David's fault. This attitude created tension and strained relationships within the family. Some mutual friends who initially supported Sarah's decision to expose the affair began to distance themselves. Their distance stemmed from discomfort with the public nature of the revelation and the personal impact it had on their social circles. Their retreat left Sarah feeling isolated and questioning the authenticity of their initial support. Sarah and David were both left to navigate a landscape marked by shifting alliances and newfound adversaries. Each ally and betrayal had significant consequences for their personal and social lives. With the support of her newfound allies, Sarah began to rebuild her life. She worked closely with Lisa and Michael to address her financial and emotional needs, finding solace in their genuine friendship. Emily's support also helped her heal old wounds and provided a sense of stability and comfort. David's efforts to manipulate the situation and protect his reputation led to further complications. The support he received from Tom and other friends came with its own set of expectations and pressures. The division within his family, particularly with Margaret's criticisms, added to his sense of isolation. The betrayals and alliances reshaped Sarah and David's social circles. Sarah's strengthened relationships with her new allies provided a sense of solidarity and purpose, while David faced the consequences of his actions, including strained friendships and fractured family dynamics. As the consequences of their actions continued to unfold, Sarah and David each faced the repercussions of their decisions. The unexpected alliances and betrayals revealed the complexity of human relationships and the often unpredictable nature of loyalty and support. In this turbulent time, both Sarah and David were forced to confront the impact of their choices and navigate a new reality shaped by the shifting dynamics of their social and personal lives. The tense atmosphere that had enveloped David and Sarah's lives reached a boiling point with an event that would escalate their conflict to new extremes. The turning point came unexpectedly, catalyzing a series of drastic decisions and actions that pushed both parties toward their breaking points. The turning point was triggered by an explosive discovery that Sarah made, one that would dramatically alter the course of their conflict. During her routine review of documents related to their financial situation, Sarah stumbled upon a series of emails and bank statements that revealed David had been siphoning off significant amounts of money into secret accounts. The funds were intended for Emma, who had been pressuring David for financial support to maintain their affair. Sarah's heart raced as she read through the emails, which detailed not only the financial transactions but also David's promises to Emma. The emails included explicit plans for future financial support and even hinted at David's intentions to leave Sarah for Emma if the opportunity arose. The discovery was a devastating blow, amplifying Sarah's sense of betrayal and anger. She felt not only emotionally hurt but financially deceived. The realization that David had been deceitful on multiple fronts, both personally and financially, pushed her to a breaking point. Sarah's decision to confront David with this new evidence marked the beginning of an intense escalation in their conflict. The confrontation was charged with raw emotion and led to a series of extreme measures from both sides. Sarah confronted David in their penthouse, presenting him with the emails and financial documents. Her voice trembled with a mix of anger and determination. "I trusted you with everything, our lives, our finances. And now I find out you've been planning to leave me and give our money to someone else." David's initial reaction was one of shock and denial. He attempted to justify his actions, claiming that the funds were meant to ensure Emma's security as a precaution. Sarah was unimpressed by his explanations and gave him an ultimatum: either come clean about everything and face the consequences, or she would take legal action and publicly expose his financial misconduct. In response to Sarah's ultimatum, David tried to manipulate the situation further. He threatened to retaliate by exposing private and sensitive information about Sarah, hoping to dissuade her from pursuing legal action. His threats included details about their private lives and personal communications that he had kept from the affair. Determined to take control of the narrative, Sarah decided to go public with the new information. She coordinated with a media contact to ensure that the full extent of David's financial deceit and the affair would be reported. The media exposure not only magnified the scandal but also put additional pressure on David, who faced public scrutiny and backlash. As the conflict reached its peak, both Sarah and David took extreme measures in their attempts to gain the upper hand. Sarah filed for divorce, citing David's financial misconduct and emotional betrayal as key reasons. She sought a substantial portion of their assets and alimony, leveraging the evidence of his financial deception to strengthen her case. Her decision to pursue aggressive legal action was fueled by her desire for justice and to ensure her financial security. David, in a bid to regain control, hired a high-profile lawyer to challenge Sarah's claims and discredit her allegations. He also attempted to influence public opinion by presenting himself as a victim of Sarah's vindictiveness. His countermeasures included trying to manipulate the media narrative and using legal threats to intimidate Sarah into withdrawing her claims. The extreme measures taken by both David and Sarah led to a further deterioration in their personal and social lives. Their mutual friends and family were caught in the crossfire, facing pressure to take sides and deal with the fallout from the public exposure. The personal and social repercussions of their actions added to the overall intensity of the conflict. The turning point marked a significant escalation in the conflict between David and Sarah. The series of events that followed forced both parties to confront the full impact of their actions and decisions. As they faced the consequences of their extreme measures, their lives were irrevocably altered, setting the stage for a resolution that would ultimately determine the future of their relationship and their personal lives. In the wake of the turning point, David and Sarah were left to navigate the aftermath of their choices, with the escalating conflict pushing them to confront their deepest fears and desires. The path forward was fraught with uncertainty, as they grappled with the fallout from their actions and sought to find a resolution amid the turmoil. As the battle between David and Sarah reached its climax, the psychological and emotional toll of the affair began to intensify, pushing both partners toward a state of madness. The relentless stress and turmoil began to unravel their mental stability, revealing the deep scars left by their tumultuous relationship. Sarah's decision to go public with David's affair and financial deceit brought with it a wave of media attention and public scrutiny. The constant pressure from legal battles, coupled with the invasion of her privacy, led to severe anxiety. She became paranoid about being followed or judged, feeling that her every move was being watched. Despite the support of a few close friends and family members, Sarah felt increasingly isolated. The betrayal by David and the subsequent social fallout left her in a state of profound loneliness. She struggled with feelings of worthlessness and despair, unable to find solace even in her own home. Her emotional state deteriorated into a deep depression, characterized by sleepless nights, lack of appetite, and a pervasive sense of hopelessness. Sarah's fixation on the details of David's affair and financial deceit became obsessive. She spent hours reviewing documents, emails, and social media posts, trying to piece together every detail of David's actions. This obsessive behavior consumed her thoughts and further exacerbated her mental distress, leaving her unable to focus on anything else. David's attempts to manipulate the situation and defend himself publicly took a toll on his mental health. The constant guilt over his actions, combined with the pressure to maintain his fabricated narrative, led to severe paranoia. He began to distrust everyone around him, believing that even his closest allies might be plotting against him. The relentless media scrutiny and legal battles pushed David to the brink of an emotional breakdown. He experienced frequent mood swings, alternating between intense rage and deep sorrow. The weight of his deceit and the growing realization of its consequences left him emotionally fragile and unable to cope with the stress. As David's mental state deteriorated, he began engaging in self-destructive behavior. He turned to excessive drinking and substance abuse as a way to numb his pain and escape from reality. His self-destructive tendencies further alienated him from friends and family, compounding his sense of isolation. The emotional strain experienced by both Sarah and David had a profound impact on their relationships with others. Friends and family members who had initially supported them began to distance themselves, unable to cope with the intensity of the situation. The strain led to fractured relationships and a growing sense of alienation for both parties. Attempts at reconciliation between Sarah and David were marked by heightened tension and hostility. Any attempts to discuss their issues or seek closure were marred by emotional outbursts and mutual accusations. Their interactions became increasingly toxic, characterized by blame, resentment, and hostility. Both Sarah and David sought professional help to manage their psychological distress, but their individual struggles created a sense of disconnection. Sarah attended therapy sessions to address her depression and anxiety, while David's attempts at therapy were marred by his resistance to acknowledging the full extent of his wrongdoing. As the emotional and psychological strain intensified, Sarah and David's descent into madness became evident. Their behavior and interactions were marked by instability, and their once familiar lives were now overshadowed by their internal turmoil. Sarah began experiencing hallucinations and delusions related to the affair. She imagined David and Emma conspiring against her, even in her dreams. Her sense of reality became increasingly distorted, making it difficult for her to distinguish between genuine threats and her own psychological fears. David's behavior became increasingly erratic and unpredictable. He would lash out at those around him without warning, and his attempts to control the narrative only added to his sense of paranoia. His actions became more impulsive and irrational, driven by his internal struggles and fear of losing everything. Both Sarah and David resorted to desperate measures in an attempt to regain control over their lives. Sarah contemplated extreme actions to secure her financial stability and emotional well-being, while David considered drastic steps to escape the consequences of his actions, including fleeing or cutting ties with everyone he knew. The descent into madness marked the culmination of Sarah and David's emotional and psychological collapse. Their lives, once characterized by stability and success, had been irrevocably altered by the affair and its aftermath. As they grappled with the fallout from their actions, their psychological struggles continued to deepen, leaving them both to confront the profound impact of their choices and the enduring consequences of their relationships unraveling. The tension between David and Sarah reached its zenith in a climactic confrontation that would force them both to confront not only each other but also the choices that had led them to this point. The showdown was a culmination of their emotional and psychological turmoil, marked by raw honesty and explosive revelations. The confrontation took place in the penthouse apartment that once symbolized their successful and seemingly perfect life. The space, now tainted by the events that had unfolded, served as the backdrop for their final reckoning. The room was dimly lit, casting long shadows that mirrored the darkness of their feelings. As Sarah entered the apartment, she found David pacing nervously. The atmosphere was thick with unresolved anger. Without preamble, Sarah launched into a barrage of accusations. "You thought you could manipulate everyone, me, your family, even the media. You've destroyed everything, and for what? Your selfish desires." David, caught off guard by Sarah's directness, retorted defensively. "And you think you're so innocent? You exposed my private life, turned our world upside down, and now you want to play the martyr. I did what I did because you were too wrapped up in your own needs to see what was happening." The confrontation escalated as Sarah presented David with additional evidence she had uncovered: hidden bank accounts, further correspondence with Emma, and proof of his attempts to manipulate public opinion. "Look at this. This is your legacy: lies and betrayal. You've tried to twist the narrative, but it's all here, plain and clear." David, his defenses crumbling, struggled to maintain his composure. "You think you've won? All you've done is make things worse for both of us. I never wanted it to come to this. I was trying to protect what little we had left." As the argument reached a fever pitch, both David and Sarah began to reveal their deepest vulnerabilities. Sarah's voice broke as she spoke of her feelings of inadequacy and betrayal. "I trusted you completely, and you shattered that trust. I'm not just hurt, I'm broken. I've spent so much time trying to understand why, and now I'm just lost." David, overwhelmed by guilt and exhaustion, broke down in tears. "I never meant to hurt you like this. I thought I could control everything, but it spiraled out of control. I'm so sorry for everything I've done." The confrontation took a turn towards painful self-reflection. David admitted to his failures and the extent of his selfishness. "I was blinded by my own desires and couldn't see the damage I was causing. I thought I could fix things without facing the consequences, but I was wrong." Sarah, in turn, acknowledged her own role in their unraveling. "I wasn't perfect either. I was so caught up in my own anger and sense of betrayal that I didn't see how our actions were driving us apart. I failed to address our issues before they became too big to handle." The confrontation reached a critical point when Sarah issued a final ultimatum. "We have to make a choice now: continue down this destructive path, or face the reality of what we've become and find a way to move forward, separately or together. But we can't keep living like this." David, his emotions raw and conflicted, faced the weight of Sarah's words. "I don't know if we can fix this. I've made so many mistakes, and I'm not sure if there's a way back. But I do know that we both need to decide what comes next, for our own sanity and well-being." After a prolonged silence filled with the weight of their decisions, both David and Sarah reached a tentative understanding. They agreed that they needed to take time apart to reflect on their lives and choices. The penthouse, once a symbol of their success, would now become a place of separation and healing. Sarah made the decision to move out and stay with her sister, while David opted to seek professional help and work on understanding the roots of his behavior. They parted ways with a sense of resolution, albeit tinged with sadness and uncertainty about the future. In the aftermath of their climactic confrontation, both David and Sarah began the process of healing and self-reflection. Sarah focused on rebuilding her life with the support of her sister and professional counseling, working through the emotional scars left by the affair. David, facing his own demons, sought therapy, and began to confront the underlying issues that led to his destructive behavior. The journey ahead was fraught with challenges, but both were committed to addressing their personal flaws and seeking redemption. The climactic confrontation marked a turning point in their lives. While the future remained uncertain, David and Sarah were left with the knowledge that their choices had profound consequences. The confrontation served as a catalyst for change, pushing them to confront their realities and take steps toward personal growth and healing. In the end, the climactic confrontation was both a dramatic showdown and a moment of profound self-realization. It forced both David and Sarah to confront the depths of their choices and the impact they had on each other's lives, setting the stage for their individual journeys toward redemption and recovery. The confrontation between David and Sarah marked the beginning of profound and irreversible changes in their lives. The emotional and psychological impact of their final showdown set off a series of events that reshaped their futures, leaving both partners to grapple with the consequences of their choices. Sarah's departure from the penthouse and her move to her sister Emily's home marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life. Emily's support provided Sarah with a much-needed sense of stability and a fresh perspective. The transition allowed Sarah to focus on her personal growth and healing, away from the toxic environment that had once been her home. Sarah took the opportunity to reassess her career and personal goals. She sought new professional opportunities and engaged in activities that rekindled her passion and self-worth. Her focus on self-improvement and healing led to positive changes in her outlook and self-esteem. Through therapy and support from friends and family, Sarah worked through the emotional trauma caused by the affair and the subsequent fallout. Her healing process involved addressing feelings of betrayal, anger, and sadness, ultimately leading to a renewed sense of hope and resilience. Sarah's relationships with friends and family, strained by the public fallout, began to mend as she worked on her personal recovery. Her renewed focus on positive connections helped her rebuild her social network and establish a support system that was crucial for her ongoing healing. David's attempts to control the narrative and manipulate public opinion backfired, leading to increased media scrutiny and public backlash. The exposure of his deceit and the resulting scandal damaged his reputation, both professionally and personally. He faced criticism from former colleagues, friends, and the public, further isolating him. The scandal surrounding David led to significant professional consequences. He lost key clients and faced legal battles related to his financial misconduct. His career, once marked by success, was now in disarray, leaving him to confront the reality of his professional downfall. David's emotional and psychological state continued to deteriorate as he struggled with guilt, shame, and regret. His attempts at self-medication and avoidance only exacerbated his issues. Despite seeking therapy, his journey towards recovery was fraught with setbacks and challenges. The fallout from his actions resulted in further isolation from friends and family. Relationships that were once supportive became strained or severed, leaving David with a diminished support network. The consequences of his actions extended to all areas of his life, leading to a profound sense of loss and disconnection. Both Sarah and David faced significant legal and financial repercussions. Sarah's divorce settlement and legal battles ensured her financial stability, but the public nature of the affair affected her personal and professional reputation. David's financial mismanagement and legal troubles resulted in significant monetary losses and a tarnished career. The breaking point led to lasting changes in both Sarah and David's personal lives. Sarah's journey towards recovery was marked by a renewed sense of purpose and a commitment to personal growth. David, on the other hand, faced ongoing challenges as he grappled with the long-term consequences of his actions. As time passed, both Sarah and David were left to reflect on their experiences and the choices that led them to this point. Sarah's focus on healing and rebuilding her life led to personal growth and a more positive outlook on the future. David's journey, marked by setbacks and struggles, offered him the opportunity to confront his flaws and work towards self-improvement. The breaking point served as a catalyst for resolution and acceptance. Sarah and David each came to terms with the irreversible changes in their lives and made choices that aligned with their newfound realities. Their paths diverged, but both were left with the understanding that their actions had profound and lasting effects on their lives and the lives of those around them. The fallout from the confrontation led to a series of irreversible changes for both Sarah and David. The emotional, psychological, and practical consequences of their choices set the stage for their individual journeys toward resolution and recovery. As they faced the new realities of their lives, both Sarah and David were left to navigate the complexities of their changed circumstances, striving for personal growth and acceptance in the aftermath of their tumultuous experiences. In the wake of the dramatic fallout, Sarah and David faced the complex task of coming to terms with their decisions and navigating the aftermath of their conflict. The resolution of their story marked a new chapter for both, defined by their personal growth and the lasting effects of their choices. Sarah's transition to her sister Emily's home was initially challenging, but it gradually became a sanctuary for her healing and renewal. Embracing her new beginning, Sarah focused on building a life that reflected her values and aspirations. She began taking classes in areas she was passionate about, which reignited her enthusiasm and provided a sense of purpose. Sarah's commitment to personal development led her to explore new career opportunities and establish a fresh professional identity. She sought work that aligned with her interests and values, allowing her to rebuild her professional life on her own terms. Her success in her new endeavors contributed to her self-esteem and sense of achievement. With time, Sarah mended relationships with friends and family that had been strained by the public scandal. Her genuine efforts to reconnect and her newfound perspective helped her rebuild trust and support within her social circle. Sarah's ability to open up about her experiences and emotions played a key role in repairing these bonds. A critical aspect of Sarah's resolution was finding a place of forgiveness and closure. While she struggled with lingering feelings of betrayal, she worked through these emotions with the help of therapy. Sarah came to understand that forgiveness was as much about her own peace of mind as it was about absolving David. David's path was marked by a series of harsh consequences resulting from his actions. His career, once thriving, had suffered irreparable damage, leading to a significant financial and professional downfall. David faced these consequences with a mix of resignation and determination to rebuild his life from the ground up. David's journey involved intense self-reflection and commitment to self-improvement. He continued with therapy, addressing the root causes of his behavior and seeking to understand the underlying issues that led to his actions. This process was arduous, but David's willingness to confront his flaws marked a crucial step in his personal development. David faced the challenge of rebuilding trust with those who had been affected by his actions. Although some relationships remained strained, David made sincere efforts to reconnect and make amends. His attempts to repair the damage he had caused were met with mixed responses, but his determination to change was evident. A significant aspect of David's resolution was coming to terms with his past actions and accepting the new reality of his life. David realized that some consequences were irreversible, and he focused on moving forward with a renewed commitment to living an honest and responsible life. The conflict had long-lasting effects on both Sarah and David's lives. Sarah's journey of self-discovery and growth led her to a more fulfilling and balanced life. David's ongoing struggles and efforts to rebuild were a constant reminder of the impact of his choices, shaping his path towards redemption. Both characters gained valuable insights from their experiences. Sarah learned the importance of resilience and self-worth, while David came to understand the value of integrity in personal responsibility. Their perspectives evolved as they navigated the challenges of their changed circumstances. In the final reflections of their story, Sarah and David found a sense of peace in their individual journeys. Their experiences, while painful and transformative, led them to a deeper understanding of themselves and their values. The resolution of their conflict marked a turning point in their lives, setting them on paths toward personal fulfillment and growth. As Sarah and David continued to navigate their new realities, they were guided by the lessons learned from their tumultuous experiences. The resolution of their story was not a return to the past but an acceptance of the present and an embrace of the future. Their lives, forever altered by their choices, became a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the potential for renewal and growth even in the face of adversity. In the aftermath of their conflict, Sarah and David each found their own path to resolution and healing. Their stories, marked by both pain and progress, underscored the complexity of human relationships and the enduring impact of personal choices. With the dust settled and the aftermath of their conflict behind them, Sarah and David embarked on new paths in their lives. Their journeys diverged, reflecting their individual quests for redemption or continued struggle. This chapter explores how their lives evolved as they faced the themes of redemption and ongoing turmoil. Sarah's transition to a new chapter in her life involved a thorough reinvention. She immersed herself in personal growth, exploring new interests and passions that had been overshadowed by her tumultuous past. Her journey included taking up hobbies she had previously abandoned, such as painting and hiking, which provided her with a renewed sense of purpose and joy. Professionally, Sarah found new opportunities that aligned with her values and aspirations. She started working in a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping individuals affected by similar experiences of betrayal and personal crisis. Her work became a source of fulfillment, allowing her to use her own experiences to make a positive impact on others. Sarah's focus on rebuilding her life included reconnecting with a supportive community. She formed new friendships and strengthened existing relationships with those who had stood by her during her struggles. Her social circle, now enriched by genuine connections, provided her with a strong support network that helped her navigate her new beginnings. Central to Sarah's new beginning was her journey toward forgiveness. She continued to work on letting go of past grievances and embracing a mindset of peace and acceptance. This process was not always easy, but it was crucial for her emotional well-being. Sarah's ability to forgive, both herself and David, became a cornerstone of her personal healing. David's attempt to rebuild his career faced persistent obstacles. The damage to his professional reputation was significant, and despite his efforts, finding new opportunities proved difficult. His struggle to re-establish himself in his field was marked by ongoing setbacks and frustrations. David's journey toward redemption involved a deep and continued commitment to personal accountability. He remained engaged in therapy and support groups, working on understanding and rectifying the behaviors that led to his downfall. While he made progress, the process of self-discovery and change was ongoing and fraught with challenges. The impact of David's actions continued to strain his relationships with friends and family. While some relationships were mended, others remained distant or fractured. David's attempts to reconcile with those affected by his actions were met with mixed responses, reflecting the long-lasting impact of his behavior. In the midst of his struggles, David began seeking new meaning in his life. He explored different ways to contribute positively to society, including volunteering and mentoring. These activities provided him with a sense of purpose and a way to make amends for his past actions. Though the road to redemption remained arduous, both Sarah and David took time to reflect on their past experiences and the lessons they had learned. Sarah's reflections centered on personal strength and resilience, while David's focused on the importance of integrity and accountability. These reflections shaped their outlooks as they moved forward. The changes in their lives represented more than just a new beginning. they symbolized a deeper understanding of themselves and their circumstances. Sarah and David each faced their respective challenges with a renewed perspective, accepting that their lives had been irrevocably altered but also enriched by their experiences. Despite the hardships they faced, both Sarah and David held on to hope for the future. Sarah's optimism was fueled by her progress and the positive impact she was making, while David's hope was rooted in his ongoing efforts to change and make amends. Their stories, though marked by pain and struggle, were also filled with the potential for growth and transformation. As Sarah and David continued to navigate their new beginnings, they each faced a future shaped by their past experiences. Sarah's journey of personal reinvention and professional fulfillment reflected her commitment to moving forward with purpose and positivity. David's ongoing struggles and efforts at redemption illustrated the complexity of his path and the enduring impact of his choices. Their lives, now distinct yet intertwined by their shared history, became a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the potential for renewal. The themes of redemption and continued turmoil were woven into their stories, highlighting the challenges and triumphs of their journeys toward new beginnings. In the quiet moments after the storm, both Sarah and David found themselves contemplating the paths they had traveled and the choices that had irrevocably shaped their lives. The epilogue of their story serves as a reflection on the lasting consequences of their actions and the evolution that followed, offering a final glimpse into how they have grown, or struggled, in the wake of their tumultuous journey. As Sarah looked back on the series of events that had once threatened to destroy her, she felt a profound sense of pride in how far she had come. What had started as a devastating discovery of betrayal had ultimately led her to reclaim her life and redefine her sense of self. The pain she had endured was now a distant memory, overshadowed by the strength and resilience she had discovered within herself. Sarah's experiences had not only reshaped her life but had also empowered her to help others. Her work at the nonprofit organization became more than just a job, it was a calling. The ability to connect with and support others who had faced similar challenges gave her life deeper meaning and fulfillment. She had turned her pain into purpose, finding healing through the act of giving back. Forgiveness had been a critical part of Sarah's journey, and as she reflected on the past, she realized that she had finally found peace. By letting go of resentment and embracing forgiveness, she had freed herself from the emotional burdens that once weighed her down. Sarah's heart, once broken, had healed, and in its place was a sense of calm and acceptance. As Sarah looked toward the future, she felt a renewed sense of optimism. She was no longer defined by her past but by the person she had become through her experiences. Her life was now her own, and she was determined to continue building it with intention, joy, and love. Sarah had evolved from a victim of circumstance to a woman in control of her destiny, ready to embrace whatever came next. For David, reflection was a more somber process. The consequences of his actions had left a lasting impact on every aspect of his life, and the weight of regret was something he carried with him daily. He understood now, more than ever, the gravity of his choices and the harm they had caused, not only to Sarah but to himself as well. The regret was a constant reminder of the lessons learned too late. David's journey toward redemption was still a work in progress. Despite his efforts to rebuild and make amends, the road had been difficult and filled with setbacks. He had faced rejection, isolation, and the loss of his former life, but he also knew that these were the consequences of his actions. The struggle to change and to be better was ongoing, and while progress was slow, David remained committed to the process. Though his path was challenging, David found glimpses of hope in the small victories he achieved along the way. The connections he had begun to rebuild, the work he was doing to contribute positively to society, and the personal growth he had experienced were all signs that change was possible. These moments, however fleeting, kept him moving forward, reminding him that redemption, though difficult, was not out of reach. David's life had been transformed by the events of the past, but not in the way he had once imagined. He was no longer the successful, confident man he had been before the affair, but in some ways, this was a necessary transformation. The humility, accountability, and awareness he had gained through his experiences were qualities that had been absent in his former self. David's evolution was far from complete, but it was real, and it marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life. The story of Sarah and David's marriage was a testament to the ripple effect of choices and actions. The affair had set off a chain of events that affected not only the two of them but also their families, friends, and colleagues. The consequences had been far-reaching, touching the lives of many and altering the course of their own lives in profound ways. Both Sarah and David had learned valuable lessons from their experiences, albeit in different ways. For Sarah, the lesson was one of resilience, self-worth, and the power of forgiveness. For David, it was a lesson in accountability, the importance of integrity, and the need for change. These lessons had shaped their evolution, guiding them as they moved forward. In the end, Sarah and David's story was one of transformation. From the depths of betrayal and conflict, they had each emerged as different people, shaped by their experiences and the choices they had made in response. Their evolution was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is potential for growth, healing, and change. As the chapter of their story closed, both Sarah and David were left with a sense of resolution. Their lives had been irrevocably altered, but they had also been given the opportunity to start anew. The journey had been long and arduous, but it had led them to a place of understanding and acceptance. They had evolved in ways they never could have imagined, and while the scars of the past remained, they were now marks of survival and growth. The epilogue of Sarah and David's story serves as a powerful reflection on the consequences of their actions and the evolution that followed. It highlights the complexities of human relationships, the potential for both destruction and redemption, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. As they each moved forward into their new lives, the lessons they had learned and the growth they had experienced would continue to guide them, offering a final, hopeful note to their story.